The Emmaus Road experience of the two disciples is well known throughout the church. I titled this sermon Further Along the Emmaus Road because we're just moving in the same direction that those disciples did on the road to Emmaus when they walked with Jesus and were not able to recognize him until he was revealed to them in the breaking of bread. That's the verse immediately preceding where I started the scripture passage. That has a huge influence on the Christian church disciples of Christ. I grew up Baptist. Shelley and I know about that. Some of the rest of you do. And in the Baptist church, Southern Baptist church, we did communion once a quarter. Usually tacked on at the end of the evening service. And me growing up, communion was always just sort of an add-on. Wasn't really significant. I never heard a whole lot about it. I knew it was where it was done and such. When Lane and I moved to association with the disciples, we discovered a whole new possibility in relation to the breaking of the bread. In many churches, the cross and the pulpit is in the center. Preaching, the spoken word, is the focus, the focal point, and the main issue for the congregation. Christian church disciples of Christ, the table is in the center. Not to downplay the cross, not to downplay preaching, but the table and God's power and presence in the elements is the center of worship in the Christian church. We don't tack communion on at the end of the service. It's right in the middle, right in the center, right in the heart of the service, right in the heart of our worship. The elements representing real power, real presence, real world for us of God. The United Methodist Church years ago took that experience and developed a program that's called Walk to Emmaus. How many of you have ever heard of that? How many of you have ever participated in that? Been involved? Okay. Some of you had. Julie, she'll be our expert on this. She'll correct me on the way out the door if I get this wrong. It's a spiritual renewal program intended to strengthen the local church through the development of Christian disciples and teachers. It's a 72-hour short course in Christianity. 15 talks by lay people and clergy. Too important to be left to the preacher. And to get the lay folks in on this. On the themes of God's grace and the disciplines of discipleship, what it means to be the church. The Emmaus community, in which Julie participates, is composed of those who have been on the walk to Emmaus, who have done the experience. The 72 hours, the support community supports this with prayer vigil, by preparing and serving meals, other acts of love and self-giving. Usually begins on Thursday and concludes on Sunday evening. So it's a big deal. And you don't have to be United Methodist to do this. This program has been utilized by other congregations, other denominations. What I'm suggesting today is that we are, through this scripture passage, through our understanding, through our involvement, through our investment in God's power and presence today in Cottonville, we are moving further along the road that those two disciples walked with Jesus. We're walking further along the Emmaus road. Luke's a good teacher. Grace told us in Sunday school this morning that repetition is the most important key to learning. And Luke has repeated this theme several times. Jesus telling them the Messiah must die, must suffer, must be raised from the dead. So Jesus runs over that again in the scripture passage today. The disciples respond with wonders and joy. Many possibilities for sermons here. Now, don't let your faces fall. We're not going to do many sermons here today. We're just staying with this further along the road. What does it mean as disciples? What does it mean for you, for me, to continue to walk with the Lord on the road of our lives? Scripture passage talks about a road 2,100 years ago. We're not living then. We're living now. What does it mean for you and for me to continue to walk further along the Emmaus Road? What can we pick out of this scripture passage today that has significance? First thing comes to my mind of significance in terms of my walk and your walk today is that Jesus had a resurrected body, a physical, spiritual body. It was not the same as it had been. Before he was resurrected, he didn't walk through walls. But here today, he appears again before the disciples in a private place, just as he did the evening of the resurrection. So his body is different. But it's a real body. He says, touch me. Touch me and see. Put your hand in my side. In case you missed it. In case you weren't there the other night. In case you haven't heard the word. Here I am. Come put your hands on me. I'm real. He had a body. This is important. I mean, it's important for us today. But it was doubly important in the first century. There were a group of folk associated, some associated with the church, and some standing over against the church. I'm going to give you a fancy Greek word here. They were called Gnostics. G-N-O-S-I-S, gnosis. In Greek means knowledge. And these Gnostics, they felt that salvation was an intellectual experience. You believed certain things and that took care of you. It was not an experiential relationship with God. It was an intellectual belief in God, belief in Jesus and what Jesus had done, not participating in that, not Jesus living in their hearts and lives. And some of these people said Jesus didn't have, he was not really resurrected. He was not really a physical being after the resurrection. He just seemed to be physical. That's where docetic Gnostics, that's more Greek than you need to know. But some of this physical demonstrating had the effect of standing over against those people who said, well, he wasn't really risen. He just seemed to be. Jesus had a resurrected body. Now what that tells me, and what I hope it tells you, at least by the time we finish here today, is that our bodies are good. Not bad. All physical reality is not automatically bad. First 2 chapters of Genesis to the creation of this and that and the other, and culminating in the creation of human beings, In each of those days in Genesis 1 and 2, at the end of it, and God said, that's good. Next day, that's good. That's good. That's good. And at the end, when humanity and human beings are created with real bodies, and God said, that's exceedingly good. Good to excess. Tov ma'oth. Hey, there's Hebrew. I've been to seminary, you know, we get these things there. God said, that's exceedingly good. Not bad. We're created good. And then in Genesis 3, we have the fall. We have human beings making bad decisions. Don't you wish that had all ended in Genesis 3? It's very possible for me to make bad decisions today. For you to make bad decisions today. Human beings did that. One of those decisions made by those humans and made by each of us in our hearts and lives at times is to stand over against God. To say, don't call us, we'll call you. That's not what God hopes. That's not what God wants. God created us good, and that includes us older folks as well. Back when her hands were 99 or 100 years old, when her eyes didn't bother her much, when her gait was steadier, and life, even in triple digits, didn't seem quite as limited, the sock doll lady showed her magic in only 2 hours. From first snip to final stitch. In just 2 hours, Miss Nellie Elvidge could turn a boy's Fruit of the Loom crew sock into a cute-faced, cuddly, miniature, slim-down copy of the Pillsbury Doughboy. And Miss Nellie did that. It wasn't unusual for her when she was only 99 or 100. She could complete about 15 of those a week. They were chauffeured to the Inova Fair Oaks Hospital, where the excited young siblings of just born babies, the brothers and sisters, got a present all their own when the baby was born. Before long, numbers added up. In 5 years, Miss Nellie finished $1,569. By July of this year, which was 1999, she had done 1,816. And then just 2 days short of her 104th birthday, she had totaled 1,847 of these dolls for the children in the hospital. Our bodies are good, folks. God created you. God created me. I love that pop art poster that says, God don't make no junk. And that includes you. Our bodies are good. That's how God intends us to be. Now, if bodies are good, if physical reality is good and created by God, are you ready for this? Then that means we have a responsibility for other people's physical bodies and conditions. We talked about this in Sunday school this morning. I think there's an inborn resentment in those of us who work faithfully and earn our living and supply ourselves and supply our loved ones. I don't like it when people who don't do that get taken care of by the government, by whoever else, and they don't deserve it. That really ticks me off. And in our Sunday school scripture this morning, Jesus says, feed my sheep. I'm saying to you, we do have some responsibility for other people's bodies and physical conditions. That may be the sorriest scoundrel in the country. And she is created by God with a body. And me in my body, and you in your body. If bodies are good, if they're created by God, if I'm loving my neighbor, I've got some responsibility. T.W. Berger mentioned this in the Tuesday edition of the Patriot News in Boston. Columnist T.W. Berger quoted these statistics. If you have food in the refrigerator, clothes on your back, a roof overhead, and a place to sleep, you are more wealthy than 75% of the world. Further, if you have money in the bank, in your wallet, change in a dish someplace, or in your pocket, you are among the top 8% of the world's population. If I have a responsibility for other people's physical conditions, physical bodies, then that kind of goes against spiritualizing, over-spiritualizing salvation. Saying it's just between me and God, and it's how I feel. I think we have responsibility to go beyond over-spiritualizing Christianity. God is clearly concerned about our spiritual life, but God also creates us as physical beings. Too much spiritualism breeds an attitude, and I was raised with this. It's the soul that's important, and that's my responsibility to witness, bring people to Jesus, that's it. I no longer see it that way. I still see that. And I believe we need to go beyond that, further along the road to Emmaus. Too much spiritualizing breeds an attitude of neglect of person's physical, social, economic, and political needs. Really? Breeds neglect of other persons, the reality of other persons. People are more than just spirits. You are. I am. I don't believe it's possible to follow the biblical Christ and say that discipleship is only concerned with soul winning. I don't believe that. I believe we need to build on both body as well as on soul. In our scripture today, Jesus returns from the dead and meets his disciples in different places: the garden, the Emmaus Road, seashore, the upper room. He witnesses to them that he's alive. This guy back from the dead with a body. He isn't content to send them a postcard from heaven. Having a great time, wish you were here. He comes back and interacts with them. Well, folks, I believe Jesus is here today interacting with us and has the same sort of expectations for me, for you today that he did then. I think that's what this back to life Jesus wants from us. He doesn't want names on the list. He doesn't want people who just sit in church and smile. Jesus wants us as witnesses, not as airy spirits or pious ghosts, but bodies like his own may have wounds to show, may have difficulties making it one day at a time. The only Easter, the only resurrection life some people will ever see is the Easter they see in you and me. Those people with 2 good ears better listen.